Hello guys and welcome back to another Premier League predictions video. We return today with Game Week 4, which is the final one before we head into the international break. So as the Premier League teams do, we're looking for a good final weekend before that 2-week gap. And we kick off on Friday night, Luton Town's first home game of the season as they host in-form West Ham at Kenilworth Road. This was a hard one to predict because I think a lot of people will be thinking the same with Luton. It's their first home game of the season at Kenilworth Road. The fans are going to be up for it. It's a Friday night, so it should be a real tough game for West Ham. I was tempted to go for a 1-1 draw, but I just leant towards a West Ham win, so I've actually gone 2-1 to the Hammers. They've been really good to start the season off. James Ward-Prowse has been a great acquisition. They've brought in Mohamed Kudus now as well, so I think West Ham will win. It's just the fact that it's Luton's first home game of the season, Friday night under the lights. It's going to be a tough one for the Hammers, but I have gone for them to win it. And then moving into Saturday, another real tough game to predict to kick off the weekend fixtures, with Sheffield United hosting Everton at Bramall Lane. Two of the only sides alongside Luton in the Premier League not to have a win so far this campaign. And surprisingly, I've gone for a Sheffield United victory against Everton. Now, I watched the United game against Manchester City and I was actually really impressed with them, and on the other hand, Everton have been really poor this season. Lost both their games at home by 1-0 and got battered away at Villa Park. I was really in two minds what to go for in this one. I was tempted to go for 0-0, then I thought about 1-1 and I settled with a 1-0 Sheffield United victory. Game 3, the first of the 3 o'clock kickoff, sees Brentford taking on Bournemouth at the G-Tech. And Brentford are a tough one to predict. They always seem to be the team that kind of fuck me over. For example, when they were 1-up against Palace the other day and I had 2-0 and they ended up conceding and just not even trying to score a second, which would have got me a lovely 3-pointer. Now again, I was tempted to go for a 2-0 Brentford victory, but today I decided to go for a 2-1 scoreline, as I do think Bournemouth will get on the score sheet. They were quite unlucky against West Ham on the opening day and then obviously went to Anfield and despite taking the lead, lost there. I do think they will put up a little bit more of a fight, but I've gone for Brentford to win it by 2-1. The third of the newly promoted sides, Burnley host Tottenham at Turf Moor in game 4, and for this one I've gone for a Tottenham 2-0 victory. Seems like their favourite scoreline to kick off the season. They obviously beat United and then Bournemouth at the weekend, both by 2-0. It seems like that one was kind of written in the stars. They do look good at the back to kick off the campaign, Spurs, and I don't really see Burnley getting too many chances, so I've gone for a 2-0 victory. Game 5 sees my boys Chelsea against Nottingham Forest, another favourable home game for the Blues after dispatching of Luton last Friday night. However, Forest are in pretty decent goal scoring form after going 2-up at Old Trafford, and Taiwo Awoniyi in particular having scored in I think his last 7 Premier League games. He's been on a great run, so I was going to go for a 2-0 Chelsea victory, but with that in mind I've gone for Forest to score and gone for 2-1. Game 6 follows with another favourable home tie for one of the top sides, with Manchester City hosting Fulham at the Etihad, and this time I have gone for a 2-0 scoreline. I went a bit overboard with Man City away at Sheffield United and went for a 4-0 victory. In the end it was 2-1 to City, that late winner from Rodri, and I think with Pep not being there they don't look quite as fluid, City, but I think they will very comfortably beat Fulham. Haaland's not quite had his shooting boots on to kick off the campaign, which is why I've not gone for more. Final game of Saturday sees Brighton taking on Newcastle, another really tough game to predict because Newcastle have looked okay in stages. They were alright against City and they really should have beaten Liverpool at St James's Park at the weekend. Brighton, on the other hand, also a disappointing defeat for them at the Amex. And I've gone for a draw in this one as Newcastle aren't quite as good away from home as they are on the road. I think 1-1 is quite a safe bet. De Zerbi's side have played some great football but were poor against West Ham, so I think both teams will be looking to fight back and will be happy to take a point from this one. And now as we head into Sunday's fixtures, we kick off with Crystal Palace against Wolves, where I've gone for a Roy Hodgson 1-0 masterclass for Crystal Palace. They don't really look like scoring a huge amount of goals, the Eagles, but on the other hand they do look pretty decent at the back, and we know Wolves' struggle with scoring goals. They did win at Goodison Park, but I think Selhurst is a much trickier fixture, with Crystal Palace having a decent start to the season, hence why I've gone for a 1-0 victory. The other 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday sees Liverpool returning back to Anfield to take on an in-form Aston Villa side, but I have gone for Liverpool to win it after Darwin Núñez's heroics at St James's Park. Aston Villa will also have played midweek as they've got their Conference League qualifier against Hibs, and although they'll win that pretty comfortably, it is minutes in the legs for the Villa players. Tough place to go. Liverpool's record over the years has been superb at Anfield, but they have been shipping goals at home, so I have gone for Villa to get on the score sheet and gone for a Liverpool 2-1 victory. And the final game of the fixture to close out Super Sunday sees Arsenal hosting Manchester United at 4:30. The games between the top sides are always really tricky to predict, but I've gone for Arsenal to win this one by 3-1. I did a little bit of research into the statistics for this game. We'll start off with Arsenal, who are pretty poor at keeping clean sheets at home, as we saw against Fulham in the previous game, which screwed over my joker. They're actually much better at keeping clean sheets on the road. But on the other hand, Manchester United haven't really looked like scoring that many despite getting 3 against Nottingham Forest. Especially on the road, they're very poor, so hence why I've gone for an Arsenal victory by 3-1. And to close out Game Week 4, our joker game for this week is Manchester City to beat Fulham by 2-0. As I mentioned, we were screwed over by Arsenal and Fulham actually, so lightning could strike twice here, as in Game Week 3, Fulham secured the 2-2 draw at the Emirates, but I think it'd be very unlikely for them to go to the Etihad and cause an upset there. So we've gone safe, we've gone back with Manchester City as our joker this week, as they are the best team in the league and probably in the world. Let's head over to the website and see how we're getting on after a pretty poor display in Game Week 3. So here we are then. Here is a full breakdown of the table. You can see we've dropped down to 15th place with just 24 points. Our run of having a point per game has most definitely dropped off, as we now only have 24 points in total, and you see there is a bit of a gap starting to open to the guys at the top who are in the early 30s. So we really need a good week, as I mentioned, heading into the international break, and that's what I'm hoping for in Game Week 4. Here's a breakdown of the Fixture 3 table, where you can see we only picked up 5 points from the 10 games. We did get 5 correct results, which isn't necessarily awful, but once again this year our correct scores really letting us down, and of course, as I mentioned, our joker completely out of the window. There you can see a full breakdown. We did get those 5 correct scores, like I say, but losing our joker, if Arsenal had held on to win, that would have been an extra 2 points, which would have made a difference. I also had Everton to draw 1-1 with Wolves. This was a game that quite a few people actually picked up 3 points with 1-0 Wolves, and I think that was a game that definitely could have ended 1-1, which really screwed me over. I've already mentioned the Brentford game, which again was 1-1, couple of people picking up 3-pointers there, and it's just those late goals have such a big difference. They can change the table so much. We also lost points with Darwin Núñez scoring that late goal against Newcastle, where I would have picked up another point for the 1-1 draw. So as I mentioned, it's very fine margins. Goals change the points drastically in this predictions race. We were so close to picking up a couple of correct scores, and they just fell away towards the end of the fixture. So a big week next week. We need to get back on track, pick up some correct scores, get this number a lot higher, and start making a charge to the top of the table. That will do it for today, guys. As I mentioned, we need a big week in Game Week 4, so I'm really hoping that we kick on and get some movement this week. Wish me luck, and I'll catch you in the next episode very soon. Peace.